Kia ora whānau. Today I'm making a wee video on using the Gibbs reflection cycle. I found a wonderful PDF that takes you through the process and makes it a little bit easier to reflect on your practice. So I'll start now. Okay, so the Gibbs reflection process has 6 stages to it, as you can see in this diagram here. The stages need to be done in order and follow on from each other. I've found that the more specific I am about the description and keep it quite succinct, then the rest of the stages continue on. So where I've had trouble is that I've tried to reflect on too much at one time, or I haven't actually followed the process and become analytical straight away. I haven't actually described it. So hopefully using this PDF, I have found it quite helpful, that you will also find it helpful. I'm also going to touch on another example of cultural reflection through Māori culture that I added to some of my reflection just so that I have that cultural essence coming through as well, because it has a slightly different dimension. So I hope you will enjoy that. But anyway, I'll get back to the Gibbs cycle. So it says that the Gibbs model is actually an iterative model. It means that by reflecting over something that you've done, you will be practicing it. So through talking about it, writing about it, discussing about it, drawing it, you'll actually gain insight and deeper knowledge into it, just simply through practicing it in another form. So that's the point of doing reflection, so that we continue to learn. So the reflection cycle has 6 different stages. It has the description, the feelings, evaluation, analysis, conclusion, and action plan. There's a couple of different versions of it. It's been adapted by practicing nurses, and they've come up with this form. So for example, what has happened, the description of what has happened, what were your feelings, how did you react? I think that can be quite an important question. Your initial evaluation of the experience, was it good, bad, interesting? You need to make sure that in this part that you're still keeping in a descriptive way, that you're not actually going on to analysis yet. This is in the next part. So the only time that you're actually analysing why it happened or the underlying reasons for that is in this stage. So you're making sense of what happened, why it happened, what were the underlying reason, what caused that, did it go bad? And it's like, oh, well, did the student have breakfast? Were they tired? Was I unorganised? Why did it go bad? Why did that situation lead? Or conversely, why did it go so well? Like, what was it about it that went so well? What led to that? And then also, what were the consequences of it, of those actions? So really you're trying to get clarification around your lesson or your process. And then we have the conclusion, so what did you learn from it? And then finally the evaluation, which teachers often call next steps to learning. So some of the aims, as I've just kind of gone over, promote self-improvement, challenge your assumptions, link practice to theory. But for me, it's kind of actually finding insight on what I know, what I don't know, because I'm subjectively inside myself, and when I go through this process, it's kind of like I'm putting myself outside of myself and using a lens to look at it in a different way, because I'll have ways of looking, but it's healthy and important to use other lenses to look. And actually, particularly recently, I did a collaborative reflection, and that was really helpful because someone else saw me in a different way than I actually saw myself, and I took a lot of positive insights from that experience. So first of all, in the stages, you've got the description, and this template here goes through the 6 different stages and is asking different questions to help you think about it. it's really important that you don't answer all of them because there's too many, and I just seem to scan over and see which ones resonate with me. So within the description, you need to be specific, concise. I find that a shorter description is better. So for example, with a functional vision assessment, a report and an IEP, I simply just do one of those things. So I'll do the actual FVA and I'll just reflect on that. Or I'll reflect on just the reporting or just the IEP. That keeps it simple because it can get a little bit murky. Then for the feelings aspect, I like to look at how did I feel beforehand, how did I feel during it, and what were my feelings afterwards. So you're just stating those feelings. And then this is quite good here, how it says, how did I react or how did I respond? Sometimes that can happen in the messy business of teaching and learning. So for the evaluation, this is where I'm actually looking at what worked and what didn't work. It's not analytical, it's still a description. I think sometimes this is where people get a little bit stuck because they jump straight to the analysis here, but you're still, you're just focusing on one or two things that, what went well, what didn't go well. And then this is the meaty part of the analysis. So you want to know why and what did this lead to, like what went well and why did it go well, what didn't go well and why didn't it go well, what were those underlying reasons. So you're not describing anything, you're trying to explain the causes and the consequences of things that happened. Then you've got the conclusion. So this is where you're stating your learning. You're looking at what you could have done differently, what did you learn about yourself, what's your current knowledge, what's your strengths and weaknesses in this area. Then within the action plan, this is what in education you'd normally say, next steps. So what do I need to do to get better? What do I need to do? What's my priority areas? And it's really helpful to be as specific as possible so that it's really clear. This part, again, is not analytical. You don't want to be in the action plan looking at the whys or the hows or the whats. You're just looking at the actual next step. So now I'll just take you over to the other page, which is called Te Putake o Aureki. Excuse my pronunciation. And this one is a cultural reflection, and it starts with general reflections, strengths, knowledge gaps, what is informing my practice. So then you've got so this would be like your description in terms of the Gibbs one, so what's happening, and then you've kind of already got onto the next stage, which would be the evaluation, some of the successes. Then you've got connecting to your own, personal philosophy, and some of your next steps. Sorry, I actually didn't mean to look at that part of me. I was meant to be looking at this part. So, this is the part that I really like, which is the Māori, the unique essence, cultural identity, attitude, spirit, potential. So for me, when I'm reflecting on something, I like to look at what is the potential of the situation. So when I'm doing an FVA, I'm thinking this is so important. Like the information that I'm gathering is really going to help the student to succeed. So I kind of hold that within me as I'm doing it. Like, what is the real potential of this situation? Then it's like the relationships with others. Like, how were my relationships with the student? Were they positive? Like, how could I make the student feel more comfortable or at ease? How could I connect to them? How am I connecting to their whānau and their friends? Then this is the psychological. So what thoughts and feelings, emotions am I having? And then the tinana, the health, aho, demeanour, alertness. So this can be about me, but it can also be about my students and how can I contribute to my own health, and then how can I contribute to my students' health, and how does that affect testing conditions? So that's that aspect. So I hope you enjoyed this recording, and I hope it has helped you to understand the Gibbs reflection cycle and also this cultural reflective cycle, and I will provide the links to this at the bottom of my entry. Kia ora, and hope you have a good day. Ka kite.